So, as mentioned, I'm CEO of a Norwegian-based company called Energy Nest, and would like to take this opportunity to talk about energy efficiency, actually. And you could ask yourself the question, what is energy efficiency? And I think without a doubt these days it's all about harvesting the full potential of renewable energies. And it starts with the thought of when you think, okay, why are we here in Paris actually? That's from the COP21 website, and it just says, in 2015, COP21, also known as the 2015 Paris Climate Conference, so we are all here in Paris, will, for the first time in over 20 years of UN negotiations. So obviously, it's a discussion that takes place since a long time, aim to achieve a legally binding and universal agreement on climate with the aim of keeping global warming below 2 degrees centigrade. So that's the goal, to reduce the impact of global warming. And I think that's a valid goal, because if you look at CO2 and what it does to the environment and what's causing it, you look at the energy sector. Electricity and heat production today is accounting for about 2/3 of global CO2 emissions. So that could be one key angle to attack in order to reduce the impact of global warming. And this summit here in Paris started actually with a big bang already, I think 1 week ago, last Monday, when Bill Gates announced the Breakthrough Energy Coalition. So an initiative with global leaders from mainly the economy that dedicate a large portion of their private wealth to focus and foster a vehicle that allows the transition of renewable energies into our today's economy. So very strong statement. I'll be coming back to this. So one could ask yourself the question, what does it take to reduce CO2 emissions globally? And one question could be, for instance, what does it take to have a renewables share of greater 50% of renewables on the global energy mix? And I think today the share of renewables on the energy mix is about 22%, 16% of it being hydro. So hydro, for instance, is great, but you don't have mountains and water everywhere, especially not in many densely populated countries across the globe. If we take the remaining share of renewables, that's about 6%. So that's very little, and we need to, I think, jointly strive for expanding that share of renewables. Wind energy, concentrated solar power, PV, and others. Secondly, and we've just heard about it from David Niera, my predecessor here on stage, is to enhance the efficiency cycle of energy-intensive industries. And there are many. There is the petrochemical industry, the chemical industry, pulp and paper, food production, pharmacy, and so on, and so on, and so on. And we have to make these industries more efficient. And thirdly, we have to establish secure supply of energy everywhere. And that relates to islands, but also energy islands that are not islands, for instance, in India or China. Because what happens is if you don't have energy supplies in these so-called islands, you have to find compromises, putting up diesel generator, burning fossil fuels just to provide energy. So that all has to change. And I think there's one common solution, to many of these, and that's basically energy storage. And the question is, how can energy storage help actually to address all of these factors? And for instance, for renewable energies, when you have renewable energies that are being made reliable now with energy storage, it helps to reduce the unit cost of renewable energies. So it makes it more competitive for all of us. With regards to energy efficiency of energy-intensive industries, it's about closing the loop. Closing the loop of wasting energy that goes out the chimney. If you have energy storage, you could actually harvest excess energy, heat for example, when it's being produced, and time shift it to the moments when you need it, either for your own production or for turning that heat energy into electricity whenever you need it. And not to keep constantly burning fossil fuels. And establishing secure energy supply, I think here it's all about I think we all agree, abolishing diesel generators that power islands or other remote regions of this world, I think technically we're far beyond this already. So now it's about implementation. If we could choose what an energy storage solution could look like, I mean, what should it be like? I think overall, an energy storage solution should be, first of all, environmentally friendly. It should not decontaminate our own environment. It should be low cost, because there's many energy storage technologies already out there that no one can afford, really. So we have to bring costs down so that anyone can benefit from energy storage. And lastly, it should be available where it's needed, and it should be according to purpose. And that includes a long life cycle. Not to exchange your storage unit every 5 to 10 years, because then again, back to the first factor or the second factor, who's able to afford that? Flexibility in use, yeah? All these factors. And because energy is not always the same. Sometimes it's heat, sometimes it's electricity. So we have to have an energy storage solution that caters to both needs, and it's flexible in its application. Now, these factors are nice, but if we today look at energy storage technologies out there, a lot of them have shortcomings. And again, hydro energy is a great example for clean energy, but we don't have it available everywhere. So if we think about energy storage solutions today, we find that many of them are actually toxic, or you won't be able to recycle them. One example would be, for instance, battery solutions, yeah? Where the metal components, cadmium, for example, do impose an environmental threat. Second of all, we have fancy energy storage solutions, just the latest lithium-ion battery hype, but it's not at low cost. It's quite the opposite. It's high costs, especially given the life cycle of the batteries of maximum 10 years, let it be 12 in the best case. But you would have to replace this energy storage solution, so that is high cost. And lastly, today, energy storage solution, and again, this goes back to battery solutions, but also other energy storage technologies, they are oftentimes very complex because we make it complex. We think about energy storage in a complex way. And it's difficult to install and to operate, and that includes that you can't simply build it everywhere. What about remote islands or countries like India or China, where you should have a simple product that can help address the challenge of energy storage? And oftentimes we see a combination of these challenges when looking at energy storage. So I would even go so far and say currently energy storage solutions, be it in electric cars, batteries, is actually limited to the wealthier population of the planet who can afford those battery systems. But it's not a large-scale storage solution that can be rolled out globally. Over the past years, we at Energy Nest, we have developed a new kind of energy storage solution that actually tries to address the framework that we heard about earlier. So environmental friendliness. What do we mean by this? Environmental friendliness starts with the ingredients that you need. And we propose an energy storage solution that is based on globally available materials. So ingredients that you can get anywhere. And ingredients to this energy storage would be concrete and steel, ultimately. Yeah. So it's environmentally friendly because you can recycle these materials, and you have no cost to society because there is no toxicity involved when wanting to recycle it. Second of all, it's a low-cost technology because concrete and steel globally are not expensive materials. And currently we can offer our solution in storage terms at $25 per kilowatt hour. That is a very low cost for energy storage, just to throw a number out there. And then we said, it should be available everywhere and according to purpose. And what falls into this is, for instance, full scalability. This is a technology that is based on Lego-like modules, so you can basically assemble it to yourself to the need that you have for rather small storage purposes or for very large grid-scale storage purposes. That's possible. Because it's concrete and steel, you can actually get it locally almost everywhere. There's no country limitations. Many countries have steel production. Many countries have rock, so to say, yeah, or the ingredients that are used for our concrete, which is quartzite to large extents. Quartzite you find in the Americas, in Europe, in Asia. So it's not a limiting factor. And last but not least, I think this technology we have developed caters to a very long life cycle. Again, because you use concrete and steel, it doesn't degrade. Yeah, so you have a life cycle of 50 years or easily beyond. And that is actually fantastic news. And just to demonstrate a bit of how this works, and I would just highlight the fact that energy storage doesn't have to be complicated and fancy. Obviously, a concrete and steel solution you cannot put in a Tesla, yeah, or in an iPhone. Okay, that's not our aim. But for stationary storage, where you need it most, for supplying electricity or heat to the population or to the industry, the large root causes of CO2 emissions currently, this is a new technology that can actually help. And you see, this is one of our Lego-like modules, so to say. And the ingredients are 10% steel and 90% concrete. Now, of course, it's not that simple that it's concrete. We have developed this material a bit further, so it's catering especially to thermal properties, heat conductivity, heat capacity, but it's still made up out of almost 80% quartzite that you get everywhere. Yeah, so it's actually a very simple solution that works. And we have built our pilot plant together with Masdar in Abu Dhabi. And this pilot plant, now we have December since a few days, but last month in November, we have been inaugurating this technology after bringing it through certain cycles of testing, yeah, in terms of performance testing. And it actually does what we thought about it would do and could do. And it works. And just this example, it's a rather small storage for industrial purposes or for large-scale purposes. So this storage facility can store, once it's charged, 1 megawatt hour thermal energy. But the amount of release, or the release of this energy can actually, just to translate this, charge at one discharge up to 70 mobile phones with electricity, and at the same time, or smartphones, and at the same time produce about 10,000 liters of fresh water with one discharge. And you can charge and discharge this multiple times a day if you want. Yeah. So, and that's the beauty actually of heat storage, because this is a thermal storage. You can use the heat for generating electricity, but you can also use the heat for other purposes. And these other purposes are desalination in the region where water is a problem, or in the north where you have different climate situation and it gets cold, you can use it for district heating, or to power the industry with a high quality process steam. Yeah, it's all possible with a very simple design. And I think the good news on this is that even though we're a young company, we will be turning 5 years next month. I have a significant birthday. But even in this stage, it attracts already industrial attention, so of potential cooperation partners or end users. And this particular project in Abu Dhabi has been, so to say, sponsored on the supply side by Dow Chemical and Siemens, and also Heidelberg Cement as a concrete company. So to me, that's a signal that, and it's a very positive signal that you can come up with a new technology and it's being recognized. Yeah, the role it can play. Very quickly, if we think about energy systems, and I don't want to go into too much detail here, but where it can be applied. Since we store heat, you can automatically apply this heat storage on the thermal side, on the thermal generation. And one example of thermal generation would be concentrated solar power. The only renewable energy source today that provides 24/7 availability of electricity due to storage. Secondly, the industry. As mentioned, many industrial sectors are producing and consuming a large part of heat. Why not capture this heat before sending it up the chimney and make use out of it? Either refeed it into the processes when needed or to generate electricity. And then, of course, I think besides district heating for the larger population, at least in the northern hemisphere, I think the integration of renewables such as PV and wind could be really natural twins for this application, because it allows to put up an energy storage at very low cost to really help integrating these renewables even more so going forward, so that we can move ahead from globally currently 6% share of renewables to much, much more before. And one big challenge of renewables, big wind power parks currently, is that you oftentimes produce electricity when there's no demand, for instance at night. So what happens? You have to curtail this energy. That means you have to dump it, not use it. So why waste this beautiful potential of renewable energy? let's put it in storage and use it when it's being needed. And I think currently the technology that was lacking is large-scale, affordable, environmentally free energy storage. And now we have a proposal on how to help these renewable energies. And I think, to finish my presentation, we have a call for action on 3 dimensions. Number 1 is to create easy interface for young technology companies to access funding. And we've made very good experiences with the Norwegian Research Council on funding technology and innovation Norway. But I would like to send an appeal to Bill Gates and this new Breakthrough Energy Coalition, that this doesn't just stay a paper tiger, but becomes a real interface for young technologies to help save our environment. Secondly, to treat renewable energies and energy storage as natural twins, so that they're not being looked at as separately, but when we put up windmills, large wind parks, for instance, and solar power parks, to combine it with storage, that we can harvest the full effect. And lastly, that regulators recognize the value of energy storage. Because currently we keep all the strategic baseload of conventional coal power plants just to feed in electricity whenever there's no power from wind energy. We don't need this baseload if we have energy storage. And secondly, that we don't curtail or dump all this renewable energies that's being generated when we don't have use for it. Yes? And that's my personal hope for this climate summit, and looking forward to a fruitful discussion afterwards. Thank you very much.